called?
Coffee and Creatives.
Oh, I thought it said Coffee and the Greatest Podcast.
Coffee and the Greatest. Well, now it is.
I mean, that's a bold move to call your podcast the greatest podcast.
It's a bold move, Cotton.
Hey, I support it. What people don't see sometimes is people will message me and reach back out and go, you know what, you're right. Which I'm not looking for somebody to say I'm right, but it does get people's attention sometimes to go, because I'm not giving them the reaction that they wish I would, which is like, I don't know, quoting Bible verses to them or telling them they're going to burn in hell or whatever else. That would be being an asshole to me. I'm simply, they commented. I'm simply commenting back and saying, do you feel better?
Yeah.
I genuinely want to know, like, is this out of your system now?
Yeah.
Like, it's so mind-boggling to me because I just don't operate that way. I go on no one's social media posts and then just argue with them or say something negative to them. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't care what they say on social media. So it's truly like, as long as I've been on the internet, there's something in my brain that just doesn't connect with how people operate on the internet.
Yeah,
So.
I'm the same way. That happened to me recently.
Yes, it
where,
did.
Like, I never ever go looking for somebody else's social media post to like say something about it, and then I post something that I know is like that I don't really even think is that controversial. Like, it's a statement that I think this person was making a good point. Do I think that everything that this person has ever said is right? Do I have to account for their specific worldview on everything, or can I look at this thing and say, like, I think this is right, and then, like, defend why I thought it was right? And, people, like, it just brings folks out of the woodworks that want to, like, make sure that you know what they feel about what you posted, which, like, cool. Like, granted, all right, let's move on, but, like, they have to make sure that you know. They have to make sure that you know that
Everybody wants to be right.
Don't agree. Yeah. I don't want to be right. Do you feel like you want to be right all the time? Like, at all?
Well, that's an interesting way to phrase it, I guess. Of course I want to be right. I think everybody does. Everybody wants to feel like their sense of right and wrong and I don't know, moral compass or direction for their life is right. I think everybody wants that on some level. Do I need to defend that is the question, and the answer is less than I used to.
Yeah.
I hope.
Still some?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, like, I also by personality am someone that enjoys, like, I enjoy vigorous conversation and debate and all that stuff, and I can engage in that without making it personal. Like, I don't take those things personally.
Yeah.
So I would say that I don't feel that I'm a person that, like, I slept just fine last night. Like, I'm not sitting there wishing I was on my phone and I thought of another good thing. That'll get them.
Here's the zinger.
I don't really. That's not me. I'm more like sit on the cuff. There's thousands of comments on my posts. I rarely look at the comments, actually.
Yeah. I think for me, part of the problem is the people watching that debate or how that unfolds, people who might feel like, why are these people arguing over this? Or is it helpful for those on the outside, especially on a medium like Facebook or Twitter, for goodness sakes? Like,
I deleted my Twitter.
Yeah, I have not been on Twitter in a very long time.
Twitter's too fast for me.
But the people, like, you and I can have a vigorous debate and know what we're talking about and, like, have that mutual respect for each other. But there might be people on the outside who feel like that conversation isn't even helpful.
Yeah, no, I think social media does a great disservice that way. And on that same post yesterday, I actually said, hey, I think this is a loose quote of myself. Basically, like, nothing like Christians arguing on this post to prove to other people that you're basically not the buttholes that people think you are. Like, this is,
yeah,
it's pretty pretty awesome. But social media does a disservice like that, and it's cognitive dissonance, right? Like we have our own tribes and our own perspectives, and social media is great at that bias where you can find exactly what you want to find and then dig into your little thought trench. And
I guess that to me is like the thing about being right is I think there's just so much I can be wrong about.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I can fall into the trap where people kind of think like, oh, you just like play both sides of the fence, where like I just feel like there's so little that I can be so certain of, that there are so many different perspectives in the world that you can see that you haven't lived in somebody else's experience. So I'm not saying that there's not objective truth, but I am saying like that we think we can grasp all of it is that's tough for me.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm a believer, obviously, that truth is objective, while recognizing that people's experiences are real. So there's no such thing as your truth or my truth.
Mm-hmm.
There's your experiences and my experiences as it relates to the truth. That's how I would see it. So there is a fine part art, part science to how do you do that in a way that's online? How do you not just be negative, you know? And it's not that easy. No one because people don't pay attention to good news,
right?
Like it kinda. I mean, unless you're John Krasinski from The Office,
yeah,
who can come out with a podcast and call it good news or whatever. Some people will watch that, but I don't think that's a great example. John Krasinski's a good-looking dude, but let's just say that like it was me or you who just started a random YouTube channel called Good News, and we ran that exact format, it would completely fail.
Yeah,
because no one cares.
Yeah,
and we all like that little feel-good story every once in a while, and everybody always says, "Oh, this is what we need." Well, if you're a basic white girl, you just say this. But the reality is people like the sensational, the whatever, the argumentative,
mm-hmm.
the negative, and I've tried to kind of figure out how do I have this balance of being honest about who I am and what I think, while also trying to communicate it in a way that is beneficial to the world.
Yeah.
Like, how can I communicate, use social media to say something that's beneficial to the world? It's not there's no one, I don't think there's one right answer to that or how that works. I just think you have to kind of make mistakes along the way.
Yeah, just like figure it out.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, there's not a lot of forgiveness for mistakes along the way these days, though.
Sure it is.
That's, really?
Yeah, why not?
Maybe I'm on Twitter too much. Maybe, I don't know, man. It seems like, you tweet something when you're like 17 and all of a sudden, you get your dream job.
The old cancel culture.
Yeah. I like it. I hate that word and that idea, but like, I don't know what else to call it when like somebody digs up your things that you said in high school and causes you to lose your dream job or like your livelihood.
We always want everybody to judge us by our best, and we get to judge everybody by their worst.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it.
Right? Well, it seems to have served you well. I mean, you're so. Are you Mike the Cop? Is that who you are? Are you Mike Edwards? Who are you?
Who are you?
You're Mike Edwards. We're cousins.
This
full
is
disclosure.
That's a deep question.
But
who am I?
Who are you?
I'm like the former cop.
Yeah.
I still have my social media name. Some days I wish we were talking before we started this little show here about adding something, adding an account. There are days where I'm just like, would it be better for me to just dump that? I feel like I'm ancient in social media years because I've been on the internet for started blogging in 2014, so this is 7 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's like a time for an Old Testament reset.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know what needs to like melt. There needs to be a social Armageddon. I don't know, but I feel like, I mean, if you were off social media for a month, you would miss so much stuff that comes out. It's so fast, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. So I've been doing it for so long that I'm just like, I don't know. Do I have anything left to say? For me, I feel a lot of what I'm doing anymore. Is this even answering the question?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
It is. We'll get back to it.
I mean, this is the greatest podcast.
This is Coffee and Greatest podcast. So
this is the coffee's amazing, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Sabbath Coffee Roasters, Clawson, Michigan.
Hey, what was the blend? What is this?
That's the Grand River blend.
How come you got Ethiopian?
Our espresso is Grand River.
Pours himself over
Yeah,
Ethiopian,
so I pour over Ethiopia because I like that.
I didn't get that option.
We can shut up and drink your coffee.
You can expect nothing but the greatest service. Public Square. What if it was like, what's that one restaurant, Dick's or something like that?
Yeah, where they they're purposely mean to you.
Yeah, they insult you with the hats.
Yeah, you have to put the hat on.
I've never been there,
I have.
but I laugh at people who go there.
I have been there. I wouldn't even say what they put on my hat.
But that's this coffee
I'll
shop,
say that,
Public
yeah.
Square.
Public Square is.
They insult you, and you get coffee. It's amazing.
Yes.
How cool would that be, though, to get roasted while you're getting your roast?
Wow.
I'm opening
That's
up
a good idea.
I'm going to compete with you guys.
You can
I'm
open up a
opening down
spite shop.
A what?
A spite shop. You watch Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Yes, I have watched Curb Your... Is it a newer episode?
It's like the last season.
Oh, yeah. I didn't...
You got to get into it, dude.
I just told Sherry the other day, I'm like, I saw a clip of... I watched Seinfeld like Saturday morning, all morning, and then I was like, man, I need to go back and watch Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yes.
The rest of it.
Yeah, Larry has a bad experience at a coffee shop, so he opens up Latte Larry's, a spite coffee shop, just to put Mocha Joe out of business.
Oh, man.
It's really good. And John Hamm's basically on the whole season. And
Nice.
there's nothing better than John Hamm. And he's on there because he's playing a Larry David type character in a movie, I think it is. So he's like
kinda
mimicking
shadowing
all
you,
of
trying
these
to-
Larry. Dude, he nails it. It's really good.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
All right.
you gotta
I need
watch
to-
it.
What do I gotta watch that on? It's on HBO, right?
HBO, yeah.
I don't have HBO. Can I still watch it somehow?
Yes.
You got a login for me?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Um,
Anyway, I was
All right.
saying,
So-
yeah, I kind of feel like, how do I say anything that continues to carry value? Like, early on, I felt like I was doing two things. I was engaging and educating non-cops on, like, I guess, on what life is like as a cop.
yeah.
I felt like I was doing a good job of that. I also felt like I was exposing a reality that cops are people, right? Like, they're just normal people. And, like, using humor as a way to do that, I think, disarmed people and hit them from another angle, and I was happy about that. And then I felt like I was also encouraging cops. Like, they were seeing the content that I was doing, and I was saying things that they can't say, or felt like they couldn't say, or didn't want to publicly say, but, you know, they're in the background kind of cheering me on, saying, like, yes,
Yeah.
that. So I felt like I was kind of firing on all cylinders for a little while. That, you know, it's kind of like life changes, and so the content, I think, if it's going to be real, changes with it. So I'm kind of in a weird place without being a cop now, like, officially since last summer. I feel like the further I get away from that, the more I feel like it's time for my content to start to change. But I'm just not sure what that looks like yet. So
Yeah. Do you feel like the world's changed? I mean, social media was big back then, but even now it seems like it's even bigger than it was then. Everything happens so rapidly. You hear, there's a story every day about something, like trying to keep up with anything that's going on.
yeah, I don't know. I've been trying to, on a personal level, I've been trying to take my social media and ask myself the question, how can I take my personal social media and turn it into something that makes a difference in my real life? That's been like the big thing for me. I don't know. I mean, it'd be really, really difficult to do that with Mike the Cop. I try to like show up to a police department and, you know, give them free coffee or, you know, do something.
Yeah.
But it's hard. You know, my personal one, it's a little bit easier. We had somebody, some friends over, new friends. It was like one of those people, like friends on Facebook that you've never met.
Yeah.
And we had him over with some other friends that we had hung out with before to play euchre. And it was awesome. Like, hey, you guys want to come over? Like, never met these people. And
Yeah.
you know, kind of walking in the door as like Facebook friends, but then converted that into something that is happening in real life.
Yeah.
And so that's been fun to be intentional with that. But as far as, you know, who I am anymore, like, that seems to be changing. So I'm asking myself that's the exact same question is like, okay, how do I not throw away what was a lot of effort, a lot of content, a lot of time, a lot of energy to grow? How do I not just be like, well, that was fun, and
Yeah.
throw it away? How do I transition my audience with me, or how do I kind of repurpose or focus my content over here and keep it authentic and add more? So yeah, I don't know.
Was there like a catalyst for Mike the Cop? Like, what was the moment maybe, or maybe it was a series of moments where you were like, I'm gonna make a video. I'm gonna like start being like this guy, or did you like then you gain momentum and you're like, maybe I'll make another one? Like, how did that even?
Yeah, I started blogging in 2014. The website, like, it was called coplife.net.
Oh, .net.
Yeah, .net. I don't think it was appropriate domain extension. I don't think it actually made sense. But yeah, so I started blogging and I started posting this stuff on Facebook. And for me, writing was like a cathartic thing. Like I like really enjoyed putting my thoughts out there, and people just responded to it. You know, I didn't anticipate that.
People, police officers, general public, kind of all over the place.
Yeah, like whoever read it seemed like, especially cops though.
Sure.
So, all of that led me to meet some people, and one of those people, her name's Tristy, but she goes by Elizabeth on the interwebs or whatever. But anyway, she was writing, and she had like a really viral piece, and so did I, like in the same time. And I reached out to her and said, hey, could I share your post and give you credit? And she said, yeah, as long as I can share yours and give you. And so that led to conversation and relationship there, and ultimately to humanizing the badge as an organization. So we had no idea what we were doing. We're just like, well, let's just do good stuff for cops. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. And then, I mean, that has completely changed and morphed over the years as well. But we were growing on Facebook, and they had just added video as an option. And at the same time, I've got my kids, and they're showing me Vine and Officer Daniels, who is a popular video guy.
Just wearing out the cops and donuts stereotype, right? That's his.
Yeah, just
his
wearing out
thing.
the stereotype. So yeah, so he's on Vine, and I'm finding like this stuff is so funny, and I'm showing guys at work. They're like, I'm just seeing like I'm loving this stuff. My kids are loving this stuff. Other cops are loving this stuff, and so for us, we had a meeting in Dallas. We were working on like a coffee table book, and we were doing different things, and it just like literally just came up in this meeting of like, well, maybe we should try video. And we're all looking at each other like, well, who's going to do that? And I'm like, well, I mean, I guess if this Officer Daniels guy can do it, I could try.
Yeah.
And so I tried, and then like, whether it was a mix of Facebook was wanting to promote video so much that it took off. But the first video did really, really good, and then I put one on Vine, and it like took off like overnight, and I just had like instant like success, I guess. Like
Yeah.
if the number of views counts as success,
Yeah.
like it just happened like right away. There was no like grind. There was no okay. How do I need to get better at this to get my views to increase? There was no like big strategy. It was just like if we can do some videos that would draw more attention to the organization that we're starting, that would be good. And that
Yeah.
was all it was. And then it grew so fast because I think I did my first video like maybe like November of 2015 or something like that on the Humanizing the Badge Facebook page. Well, all of a sudden like these videos start doing so good, and I felt like, okay, wait a second. Humanizing the Badge isn't me. This isn't the Mike show,
Yeah.
you know, like with that. And that's when I decided, I think it was like February of 16, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do this separate, and I'm just gonna keep doing this. A, because I enjoyed the heck out of it, and B, it seemed to be like actually accomplishing part of what the mission of Humanizing the Badge would have been. And it's like all those things that we talked about earlier, how I was like, I felt like I was educating people, exposing, you know, the reality of humanity, and cops were like, I started getting messages from guys like, man, we were having a really shitty day at work, and so we all were just watching your videos, and it was making us laugh, you know, thank you, you know, for whatever. And it just felt really good. Like I was like, man, this is actually doing something meaningful for people. So that's, I just like, I'll just keep doing it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was working as a cop full time while I was still doing that, and it just led to a bunch of new opportunities. But I guess that's how it started. We still have Humanizing the Badge, and
Yeah.
still
What's
have Mike the Cop.
what's like the main focus, or what is the main thing for Humanizing the Badge? I mean, you like kind of hit on like the high level stuff. Like what does that look like practically?
Right now, we went through a lot of changes with board members, and there's so many different nonprofits out there, which is great. But we went through that same thing ourselves. Like, okay, what the heck are we going to actually do moving forward? And I was off the board for a while. I came back, and at least for the foreseeable future for Humanizing the Badge is we're doing grants. So all the money we raise is going to be divided up. We have like a primary grant, so we're doing I think it's $10,000 in Q1, 2, and 3, and then $20,000 is what we're gonna do in Q4. So we'll have like a $5,000 winner, a $2,500 winner, and I say winner like I guess they're applying it for grants. Chosen. I don't know. The winner sounds bad. Like
Yeah.
they're competing for the grants. They're not.
Yeah.
They're just like we're trying to identify people that resonate with what we're all about, and then like 5 smaller grants of 500. And so we did Q1, and now we're doing the applications for Q2, and we want to kind of like highlight the content of what people are doing out there. For a while, we were going to cities and putting on events and trying to connect departments and nonprofits on the ground, it was awesome, and I think there was benefit to that, but it was also super cost inefficient.
Yeah.
Because we have this whole team of cops who are on the internet, influencers, however you want to say it, and it's phenomenal. A lot of great times, a lot of good things accomplished, but we have to pay for all of them to go somewhere, and a lot of times there was people that did it on their own dime, you know, that kind of thing. So we tried to be reasonable. It wasn't like we weren't, you know, staying on a yacht or something like
living
that.
it up.
But there's no boats involved.
You know, so it's just like, you know, trying to do that. So like we're like, how can we just maximize what other people are already doing and like join them in their work, rather than trying to do our own thing, which is very just consumes a ton of energy.
Yeah.
Versus there are already cops doing really cool things in and with their community, and there are people in their community doing really cool things and beneficial things with or for police departments. Why not support that and highlight what they're doing and make Humanizing the Badge about them
Yeah.
who are doing it, who are literally humanizing the badge. And it's a two-way street. It's not, we're not just saying it's for cops who are doing it. Like, no, if you're in the community, like our main grant recipient was not a cop in the first quarter. And a couple of the lower grants too that we're given, not cops. We're trying to kind of say, hey, this is a two-way street. So that's been where we're going, at least for the foreseeable future with the organization.
So somebody applies for the grant, obviously, and they're saying, "This is what I'm going to do with the money. What a community garden, police department's doing an outreach, like," and you're just like saying, like going through the applications and awarding them that way. I think awarding is the way that you
Awarding,
say
yeah,
you
that
award
sounds,
the
yeah,
grant.
awarding the grant, yeah. Yeah, so a whole mess of applications or whatever, and if it's someone that we know, then we refer out the decision. If someone that if you applied for a grant, I would say like, okay, I can't
Yeah.
be the decider in this because this is a relative, or if it's a friend or somebody, like, hey, well, I'm gonna have somebody else step in and review this and help make the decision, that kind of a thing. So we have some other people willing to like look at that stuff and make those decisions. But yeah, that's basically it. People apply, and we try to kind of say, okay, you know, what is going on in here that best represents Humanizing the Badge.
Yeah. So can you like tell me about somebody who won one of the grants? Like what were they doing?
The first one was Adopt a Cop, which is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu program. So it allows cops to train for free for a certain period of time at a Jiu-Jitsu academy that offers the program. So basically, everyone has to give their time and energy. So the Adopt a Cop program pays for it. The Jiu-Jitsu academy has to do it, train it for what they'll pay for, which is like a fifth of
Okay,
what it
wow.
should be, right? Like it's way lower, so it's something, but not much. And then the person training has to train a certain amount and has to post it on social media, all that stuff. And what that's doing is, A, it's giving cops a super valuable skill, but it's also putting them in contact with everybody else that's training. So it's helping build a relationship between cops and non-cops that would not exist outside of the program.
Yeah.
And it's putting them together in a way that like they see each other. I mean, you'd have to kind of, I guess, understand Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but it's a really unique environment where you're trying to kill each other, but be friends.
Okay.
It's a really weird environment, but it's
Are
awesome.
you really trying to kill each other?
No, not really, but I don't think so. Either
You
that or
hope
I'm really
not.
good and I
Yeah,
can survive
right. Yeah,
this far.
just like surviving every.
But
every bout.
it creates a real strong bond. Like people, jiu-jitsu in that whole vibe, man. It's you really build strong relationships with people that you're training with. So that's happening with cops and non-cops together. In that while that cop is learning a skill that's going to make him really invaluable to his department and the community, because it dramatically reduces use of force. So it's a win all the way around. So that's one example.
So, how does it reduce use of force? Use of like weapons force, or just force overall?
Sure. You know, the weapons conversation can get a little interesting because there's so much to the decision making when it comes to weapons. But if you take that out, you know, most of the time, what's happening when the cell phone cameras are running and a cop is in some physical situation. I wouldn't even say altercation because, you know, most of the time, there are people that attack cops. It does happen. Like, there's been, I think, like 12 or 13 ambush attacks on cops in 2021 already. So it happens, right? But we're talking, there's 900,000 cops in the country. If each of them come in contact with 10 or 12 people a day, and that's low. I mean, the contacts with law enforcement are in the trillions.
Yeah.
So to put it in perspective, right, we're thinking like, even when I have to arrest somebody, most of the time, there's no problem. But when there is, even then, the majority of the time is you just are trying to get away. You're not trying to hurt me. You just don't want to go to jail.
Yeah.
Right?
Makes
So
sense.
what happens is when the people don't want to go to jail, well, that escalates the situation physically, because there's only one way for you to go, and you can't meditate your way to jail. Like, you can't be on another plane incarcerated, right? Like,
Yeah.
your body has to go there. So this is the problem with that. So like, but when you don't want to go, this escalates everything. So if you don't know what you're doing, or if your training is very limited physically, that's when the pig pile happens. That's when there's, why does there need to be 7 cops on this guy? Like, what? That's when, like, punches are thrown and knees are thrown and whatever else. And at the very least, it looks bad, right?
Yeah.
Like, it can look bad on camera. No matter how that person feels, no matter if they, responsibility has to be allocated to people who are, listen, if you punched your wife in the face and you got to go to jail, I'm sorry. Like, if you choose to fight, what happens is a direct result of your decision.
Yeah.
But it looks bad, and it has anytime things escalate, it has a proclivity to be dangerous for me as a cop,
Mm-hmm.
and it has a proclivity to be dangerous for you as the person going to jail. But if you are better equipped to handle that situation physically, then it can happen with much lower risk of injury to me, to you, to the senses of those watching.
Yeah.
Like, it can create a much better environment for that situation to become resolved without people getting hurt.
So why don't more departments utilize this type of training? Is it funding? Is it just like lack of knowledge? What's the roadblock to getting that?
There's probably two roadblocks. One is mindset, and I think that police departments fall into the same mindset as a lot of organizations, right? And that is, well, this is the way we've always done it. But that's not, and again, that's not like a unique cop thing. I think that's just part of the human experience. Is,
I've worked in tons of different industries.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, the answer is usually, we just never thought we could do it any differently, or the thought, the time, the investment, whatever it might be. Like, we're just going to keep doing it this way.
right. It's like being a Blockbuster in a Netflix world.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem, is the mindset of police departments is they're stuck in. You've got guys that are in charge, who they started the job in the 70s. Now they're the guy in charge.
Right.
It's kind of like fashion. You just stop at your best year, right?
That's right.
So like, whatever the height of that guy's career is, it's like, that's how we did it. This is how it worked.
Yeah.
And it doesn't recognize that maybe you could learn something and do something differently.
Yeah.
So I think mindset is a barrier. And then it does come down to, I think related to that is how do you staff for that? How do you have ongoing training for that? How do you budget for that?
Yeah.
Because you have to answer that question, and a lot of times, like, cops want a day off too. They certainly don't want to train on their off day. They're not going to be into it when you make them come in and train on their off day. Or
You probably don't want them to be all tired and irritable, and like, you probably want them to be on shift with like a clear head and feeling like mentally well, right?
Yeah, and I think the solution really is doing it on shift. I think a little bit every shift. Like, they should be able to, and that comes down to a staffing issue, because if your call volume is high and your staffing is low, well, you don't have the time to train on shift, even though you should. So that's where the politics and the budgeting comes in, and a lot of people don't realize how political policing is. Policing is the end of the political whip in a lot of ways, and it from the ground up, it's not that way. But every cop realizes a few years in, we're not the decision makers. The chief of police is not some independent thinker.
Yeah.
It's much bigger than that, and it's very, very political. And so as the political winds blow, whichever side you need to be on to stay in that position for yourself, whatever your motivations are, then those politics affect you as a cop for better or for worse. So there's a lot of factors that go into that. But I think as far as the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu things, even politically now, it's a great move because, you're saving yourself millions of dollars in lawsuits.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so this is where I feel like I play both sides of the fence because I come from a police officer family, like tons of respect for law enforcement, but these videos come out and I know that they're like just clips in a moment. They don't happen in a vacuum, but the optics are really bad. I think you'd agree that sometimes these are not justified. And it's an arm of the government using force against citizens. So like that to me is like where I get uncomfortable.
Yeah, but what? Like I don't know what's an example of. Here, I'll say this: use of force is rarely pretty.
Sure.
And the amount of times, and I always tell my especially YouTubers, because YouTube has a pretty invested audience in my channel, and they'll have heard me say a bunch of times, just because you've seen something on the internet doesn't make it the norm, and just because you haven't seen something doesn't mean it's not happening. Because a lot of times people will say, and I wanna kind of come back. I don't know what's the lady's name. What's the circle back lady? Who's the press secretary right now?
Oh,
I can't remember her name.
Paskey?
Yeah, she circles back.
She circles back. She's always
So
circling
we'll circle back to kind of. I kind of come back to your point, but I think to get there, it's important for people to understand. Like a lot of times, people have said, well, for the good cops need to get rid of the bad cops. And I when I could, this is the problem with the internet is it's very difficult for conversation. Is okay. How many cops do I know that were fired or disciplined? And of course, the answer is, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, but so then why are you saying that it needs to happen? Well, because that's the perception. Again, this is not. There is no my truth and your truth. There is truth, and then there's my experience, my perception of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like an accident happening at an intersection, and you've got 4 witnesses. They all saw it from a different angle. So,
Right.
oh no, it was definitely this guy's fault because this, and then you come over here. Oh, it's definitely so. But from a bird's eye view, only one accident happened, and all of the facts remain the facts of that situation. Deciphering that is difficult. But for me, I knew personally 2 cops that went to prison, not jail, sentenced to 2 years in prison for crimes, and I saw 2 fired, discipline reasons, and I saw others not fired but disciplined internally for various things, none of which was on the news.
Yeah.
None of them. So you kind of well, who do you think arrests bad cops? How do you think this is dealt with?
Yeah.
It is the good cops dealing with that, and it's happening 99% of the time.
Yeah.
So it goes back to this social media conversation, which is people would get bored to death watching body cam footage of cops because it would 99.9, a lot of numbers after percent of the time be, have a good day, sir, thank you, sir, how are you, ma'am? I'm great. Oh, it's a nice day out. Like, it would get really boring because it's just normal people being normal with each other.
Yeah.
That's what happens. So yeah, the optics suck on use of force because use of force is just never pretty. You have one human being trying to subdue another human being who doesn't want to be subdued.
Yeah.
That's a recipe for not looking good. It gets ugly. And so I don't really know that there's, I mean, I understand the perspective, and of course not every use of force is justified. But I think we have to allocate those responsibilities. You know, it's kind of like, I see both perspectives. This George Floyd trial is going on right now.
Yeah.
Derek Chauvin really is the trial, who's on trial, obviously. That whole situation, man, it bothered me from... There's a lot of things that bother me about that whole situation, and I think it exposes problems all the way around. But to come back to your question, I guess, I don't know if that little jog around was a help, was a way to answer your question.
Yeah, it's helpful. I just, I don't know that there's a great answer, honestly, and because I see, I see the perspective of somebody in the community who is, causing trouble, who's beating their wife, who's doing something, and somebody has to take that person to jail, and if that person doesn't want to go to jail, they've got to go to jail. So I understand that perspective. I feel like enough of these things come out. We're just like, man, why do we keep seeing this? Mm-hmm. And how do we change the perception? So I know you've talked a lot about community policing. So how do we move the perception to where that isn't just proof of?
I don't think we do. I honestly don't think we do. I think that's kind of a futile effort because you're working against a tidal wave. I mean, you got a little paddleboard and you're going the wrong way. I really don't think all we can do, I think, is build to maintain that analogy would be like to build lighthouses. That's all we can. We can't. Do not get on a paddleboard and go the wrong way against some massive tidal wave coming. And the tidal wave is people with their cell phones filming clips out of context and blasting them all over the internet, and they're sensational, and people love that.
Yeah.
That sells. When you watch the news, negative sells. And so that's what gets ad blocks, that's what gets ad revenue, and it's follow the money. It's just follow the money. That's what it is. It's like, and if you don't think that there's money involved in those kind of clips, try posting one and then getting a notification that WorldStar has the rights to it already. Somebody's profiting off of this stuff. It's big business to have clips of whatever. But so I don't think you do. I think you just kind of like sidestep it. You address it as it comes, and then you just highlight. You just kind of you just do your thing. I don't think that's about going to war with those that want to be negative. I think it's just like, you know what? Let's just do our thing, and it is what it is. People can see it or people cannot see it.
Yeah.
And when you have the opportunities for conversations like this, seize the opportunity to communicate, as best as you can, and hope that the people that hear it are like reasonable people.
Yeah.
Who are like, okay. I can think through some of this stuff.
Yeah. I can hear that perspective. I can recognize that. Do you think that? Because I don't think social media is indicative of anything. Anything that's like happening on social media, I don't think that's indicative of the culture at large. Usually, do you think, like from a community policing, boots on the ground, for lack of a better term, that some of that backlash or some of that like talk about police officers is indicative of the way communities feel about police officers? No,
it's all nonsense. I think in almost every community right now, it's going to go 99% of the way. Like I said, hello, how are you? I'm fine. How are you? No one dies. No one fights. Everybody's fine. I think that's what happens most of the time. I think I quit policing even part-time because I was not willing any longer to put my life in the hands of politicians. That's why I quit. It's not the community. People will there will always be people who hate the police for completely irrational reasons. You can't that's what I'm saying. Like, I can't change those people's minds. I'm not even going to try. You can only change the minds of someone who is open to dialogue in the first place.
Yeah.
And most of the time, most cop haters are not open to dialogue. They just want to chuck something against the wall and, be hateful. It's like, what are you going to do with that? Not much. But for me, I feared internally that political wind of, well, we have to be politically correct. We have to, walk this line for optics. Rather than make the decision about what's good, what's right, we say, how will it be viewed? And that's what I just couldn't do anymore. Because, and for me, it was the Garrett Rolfe situation down in Atlanta, in the Wendy's parking lot. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember the gentleman's name that they had stopped. Maybe you remember. I don't remember. I don't. Remember it. But in that whole thing, he gets arrested and charged. He got fired within a day for literally defending his own life. Like, I'm like, man, I'm not risking that anymore.
Yeah.
And it wasn't cop haters that fired him. It wasn't cop haters that arrested him. It was the politics. It was the optics.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, man, I'm one stop away. And I was doing it part-time just because I still wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I didn't need to do it. It wasn't for the money. It was, hey, this is still a way that I'm capable of doing something beneficial in the world. So I can still do this. Even if it was like, like the National Guard, like one weekend a month or whatever, And I'm just like, well, my family's okay with me putting my life on the line. I'm okay with me putting my life on the line. I don't care about cop haters. I'm not, that doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
What was like the realization was like, I am one situation away from politicians deciding that I need to be the example that proves their point. Mm-hmm. And it just wasn't worth the risk anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like, I owe more to my family than to go play cop and be a victim of politics.
Yeah.
And that's where it's just, I don't even know what the solution to that is, honestly, because I don't know how you take politics out of culture.
Right.
It's like it's the DNA. Mm-hmm. I don't know how it changes. It'd be great if there was some way to have like independence from politics in policing. It'd be awesome. I don't know how it's accomplished. I don't have the answer to that.
Yeah.
I mean, anarchists do. They posit a solution of you just don't have cops.
Yeah.
If you come on my property, then I kill you and bury you, and we're done. I don't know how that works out in the end, but
yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, I'd rather have the police around. I think. But everything's political. I mean, that's single.
Yeah.
Everything in society. You can't watch a baseball game without it being political. You can't get a coffee because that guy said something one time and
nuts.
It's crazy. Like
mm-hmm.
every single thing has to be tied up into politics. And I think you brought this up earlier, like this tribalism. Like we've all like gone back to this like thing that we had seemingly like evolved out of, mm-hmm. right? Like we had tribes and that did us well, and then society evolved and we like built society and we could all live together in harmony. And now it seems like there's this instinct to go back to your tribe and like destroy the other tribe. If you don't think like me, if you don't act like me, we have to destroy you.
Yeah. Well, that's how power is maintained. I think power and position, which is why, which is exactly that's the primary strategy from our main two parties is division.
Yeah.
Because how else do you stay in power?
Yeah.
How else do you not take a pay cut while everyone else is out of work?
You just divide the tribes and
You know?
Yeah.
How else do you? I don't know. Yeah, I feel like so much of what happens on the news and what happens on Capitol Hill is just completely not indicative of what normal Americans think. Speaking of sports, did you see Charles Barkley?
Yeah, when you were saying that, actually, that's what I was
What
thinking
he was
of.
saying, I think he's dead on about how most people feel on a day-to-day basis
Yeah.
about all this. Like, would you just shut up?
Yeah.
Could we just do something that is like good
Yeah.
and not divisive?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I know that, and yeah, it's certainly not a simple solution.
But I think it's weird is like if you get outside the social media bubble, most people are outside of that are like nice, reasonable people who you could sit down and have a cup of coffee with, even if you disagreed. Most people like wouldn't dehumanize you to your face, but they can dehumanize you because it's social media.
Oh yeah, no,
like-
most people wouldn't say what they say on social media
Yeah.
to people face to face.
Yeah.
Because they would get punched square in the face. They're not ready for that.
Yes.
But yeah, it's crazy, man, and I think that's definitely it definitely impacts policing. There's no doubt about it. Politics, you know,
Yeah.
with those decisions, and not for the better. It does. There is no way that I've seen it be super beneficial to the actual job. It only I think hamstrings officers, makes them second guess everything. It adds, they already have an insanely stressful job.
Yeah.
Like, it's nuts. Like, people don't call 911 because things are going well.
Yeah.
So when you sign into your car and you're going from thing to thing to thing all day, you're going from bad thing to bad thing to bad thing to bad thing
Right.
all day long. Every day, this is your life. Now, that's awesome when you're like, man, I help somebody, I help somebody, I help somebody, I help somebody. So I think it can be offset, and I think that stress can be mitigated. But when you add on this whole optics thing and put it on their shoulders, and every word you're saying is recorded, every action is being recorded. I mean, that's nuts, man. It's nuts.
My brother and I, he's a cop in Phoenix. We were having this conversation actually when I got there. I was there last week, and kind of talking through this, like, you call 911 because you want somebody else. Like, it's a situation that you can't handle.
Right.
So you called 911 because you needed somebody else to come in. And then, I mean, like, yeah, you would hope that the officer would show up and act professionally and do everything within their power to defuse the situation. But at the end of the day, like, you called 911 because there was something that was so out of your control that you had to call somebody else in
Yeah.
to deal with it.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the amount of stress that political, that need to give in to whatever they feel that they need to give into, or decisions that they need to make to maintain their position, we'll just put it on them. And it's not going to end well. It will create a self-fulfilling prophecy of bad cops. Because good cops, like me, are quitting. Because they're like, it's not worth it. It's not worth because, again, when you think about go risk your life, okay, cool. You got to come to terms. Everybody has to come to terms with that. You have to come to terms with it. Your family has to come to terms with it. Everybody's like, high five. Okay, I might die. Cool. Everybody can come to terms with that. Because that's a factor that is like, you're recognizing there's certain things that are like, it could happen, but there's a certain like noble reason in it.
Yeah.
There's no nobility in politics, in policing politically. You're like, what is this for? For a paycheck? For like, what am I exchanging this stress for? you know, and yeah, you got the stress of the job. Now you're gonna pile on where you're under this microscope. You are a lab rat for 8 hours, 12 hours, 16 hours, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 7 days a week, month 1, month 2, year 3, year 4. What the hell do you think is going to happen to those human beings?
Yeah.
They're going to crack. The ones that are smart, the ones that are smart are going to leave because they recognize, hey, this is not healthy. So I'm not going to do this anymore. So the good ones leave. You're left with the people that will do it for less money and are going to not deal with that very well, and they're going to crack. Which means how is that pressure relieved? Use of force, escalating things when it could be de-escalated because they're so pressurized.
Yeah.
What situation is going to set them off irrationally? It doesn't have to make sense. It's psychologically doesn't. There is no sense. It just the pressure has to be released. Addiction, alcohol, narcotics, gambling, broken relationships, all sorts of things. That pressure will get released somehow, and it will be corruption. You know what? This job is stressful. I deserve more. You know, maybe I will partner up with, you know, the dope man, you know, running dope and women through this hotel, and I'll protect that guy for a little bit. For a little, you know, this is way less stress on me than actually doing the job. So the public demands this insane level of impossible to maintain level of scrutiny in the hopes that it gives them good cops, and it's happening now. It's going to get so bad. It's going to get so bad in so many places, and it will be a self-fulfilling prophecy. You want to see bad cops? You just keep doing exactly what you're doing because that's what it's going to create.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's more political, right?
It's
like
driven.
the knee-jerk.
The heartbeat of that is political.
Yeah.
And it's the law of unintended consequences. Defund the police, but demand that they all have body cams, which requires computers and IT staff. And who's paying for all this?
Yeah.
You want to strip them of the resources to equip themselves to be better, while at the same time demanding a higher level of accountability. These things don't match up.
Yeah.
You can't get anything done that way.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be it's interesting to watch, and I'm just kind of like enjoying the fact that I'm not directly in it anymore.
Do you know a lot of guys who have left the force?
Oh yeah, there's people that are retiring early. I just got a text from a NYPD guy that I've known for a little bit since I went to New York a few years ago and met a bunch of cops and whatever. So some of them I stay in contact with and stuff. He's out. There's a lot of people. I mean, early retirements are up like 40% or something like that in NYPD. If they can go, they're leaving. I mean, this is massive numbers. Minneapolis was like crazy.
Yeah.
After the George Floyd thing, so many left. Because it's just poorly run, and it's all political.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to be the next victim of a political game.
Yeah.
Like, you're trying to prove a point politically, but there's a real person's life, that's being impacted by that.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, I don't want it to be mine. And it's not even them. It's usually their families. That's me. Like, yeah, it can make me I get along fine in jail, but
So just
I can
jujitsu.
take it away from my family, you know. So it's like, it's crazy out there.
So what are you doing now? So Mike the Cop is still kind of out there. You're figuring that out, and then what's next?
I'm enjoying business. Real estate is one of the avenues that is what I've been doing probably most, both as an actual real estate agent, you know, doing the job and recruiting other agents and helping to train them and teach them to succeed. Ownership in a couple other businesses, wood shop, CBD company, like just little things like that. Just creating multiple streams of revenue, and again, trying not trying to waste what I built. You know, there's gonna come a day when people aren't gonna care what like the cop has to say anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, I'm ancient in internet years. I'm ancient. I look back and be like, there was literally a time when like on Vine or Instagram, like it was me and Daniels.
Yeah.
That was it.
Mm-hmm.
There was no one doing what we were doing. And now, just hashtag cops on Instagram Reels or TikTok. I mean, TikTok has a massive law enforcement presence there making videos, and I'm out of the game, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just like, I made a video this morning and I posted it on like Reels or something like that, so I mean, I can still do it, but I just feel like I'm increasingly becoming less and less relevant in that world. And I don't think it's because I couldn't be relevant. I think if I was still on the job
Yeah.
regularly, that I feel like I would be more in that mode. But I enjoy this, but I get tired of just the same thing over and over again. I mean, how many times do I need to say, you know, most cops aren't racist? How many times do I need to say that?
Yeah.
You know, or well, you don't have all the facts about this video. It's just like, I'm kind of tired after 7 years of it. I'm just like, you know, and it needs to be said. I just don't know how long I'm the guy
Yeah.
to say it, or how can I say it? How can I transition this? You know, will it be a podcast? Will I be talking to people about current issues from their perspective? You know, in a podcast format. That's probably more my speed these days, you know, where I can sip coffee and get my freaking bifocals out
That's right.
and just turn a microphone on. It's a lot easier than trying to make a lot of high quality content.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're really supporting law enforcement out from the outside at this point. Like.
Yeah. Like I don't think that'll ever go away. I don't know what form that'll take. Like I'm really, really into this Adopt-A-Cop Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but again, that's because that's in my world, you know, and I'm enjoying training cops in that and supporting that. So I feel like on some level I'll always want to give back into that community, but I think it'll look different going forward from what it has traditionally for me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people will like that or not like it, but I can't control that.
Where does that stem from? Like what's like the police officer in you? Where does that come from?
Man, I don't know. I love driving fast, and
You just said you never speed.
not anymore.
You just said that.
Anymore. As a cop, you have to speed.
I guess so. Yeah.
You get to.
You gotta chase down the bad guys.
You get to. It's amazing. I love driving fast, and I love honestly, man. It's like, it sounds so cliche, but I love catching the bad guy. Like that's what I loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. Like dangerous situations, being the guy. Like I'll be first in the door, man. Like let's do this. I loved it.
Is that like the adrenaline rush? The like?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think I'm all out of adrenaline.
Yeah.
I don't get adrenaline anymore. I think I used it all up.
Yeah.
Like it's over. But I mean, no, I think it was literally, and this is like, you mentioned the term community policing, and a lot of people thinks that means a certain thing. Like it means I need to be on a skateboard with kids. Maybe, you know, that's not bad. But catching the bad guy, to me, is the number one community policing strategy. Because if you can walk into your place of business and conduct business free of crime, because last night when you didn't know that the guy that was going to break in here was caught because they saw him snooping around cars around the corner and they caught him before he did it here, like, it's the unseen benefit of policing that a lot of people don't think about because it's not on camera. Again, it's nobody's filming a midnight shift where the only thing that happened is they arrested that one guy who would have broken into 27 cars that night.
Yeah.
And everybody gets up in the morning and goes out to the car and is like, oh, my spare change is still in here. That's nice. You know, like, you know, or my purse that I forgot in here is still in here, or whatever, you know, like, people don't see that.
Yeah.
And I loved the fact that I was that guy. I was the one getting that done, whether people saw it or not. And so that was like, Yeah, I think that's what drove me. It was not really the adrenaline. I mean, that's fun, but it's only fun for a little bit. Honestly, like, you kind of get used to that, like, and then you would need something.
Something even bigger.
You have to
like
skydive into a crime scene to like increase the adrenaline. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, at some
your
point,
body just adjusts at some point.
yeah, at
to,
some
like,
point
just-
you just kind of get used to how to control that and adapt to that, and then it's just normal.
Yeah.
So you can't chase adrenaline in the cop world for very long.
Yeah.
So
But I think what you're saying, and this to me is what I think is so important, that that piece of community policing is so important, that your neighborhood is safe, your business is open, because I mean, it's shitty, but there are bad people in the world. Like,
yeah,
there are people in the world who will do harm. There are people in the world who will terrorize a community. There are people in the world who will,
Yeah.
take advantage of any situation where they can take an advantage. So, like, we all want to be safe in our homes. We all want to be able to go to work and feel safe. Like, as a business owner, I want the people who work here to feel safe being in this business. I want the clientele that come in to feel safe, knowing that this is a space where they can be. So, yeah, I think I think to me, like, that is always the rub, where it's like, yeah, the cops have to do that. Somebody has to do that. Like, and if it wasn't the cops, if the cops went away, somebody else would do it.
Yeah,
Whether it's
a version
the anarchist
of being the garbage man
or
is somehow like
Yeah.
you put the garbage doesn't bother us because we put it in that thing outside, and then we wheel it out there, and somebody else deals with it.
Yeah.
We don't think about where it goes or how this is stopping my house from smelling or being disgusting. Like, it's out there.
right.
And a lot of people don't realize that, yeah, like you said, there's people that, I mean, there's people that want to rape people.
Yeah.
There's people that want to steal your stuff. There's people that want to damage your property and take it for themselves. There's
Yeah.
people that want to assault you in the process. That exists,
Yeah.
And I think you get seasoned cops who gotta look. You get new cops that get out there and like they're all jazzed up to do anything and everything. You realize like you're not out there trying to ticket. Like, I'm not trying to give business owners a hard time. I'm not trying to like, why would I want someone to slow down on this road? Well, because I don't want someone walking across the street to get smoked by a car getting a coffee.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't always need to do a ticket for that. Sometimes a conversation will do. You start to learn like, hey, what really matters is keeping the community safe.
Yeah.
But when the cameras come on, when you do catch the guy that just did whatever, it's man. There was another situation. Cop shot a guy, and of course it was turned into race, which is another tool to divide politically. And they shoot the dude. He's got a knife in his hand, and everybody's like, "Oh, of course it's white cop, black guy, whatever." And it's like, no one ever asks why were the cops there in the first place?
Yeah.
Oh, he took a knife over to his ex's house and was assaulting her, and they called 911. Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Like, it's not. Cops are not coming into work and getting dressed in the locker room like, what minority are we gonna go fuck up today?
Yeah.
Like, it's just not. Are there people that get into the job like that whose mindset is warped and they shouldn't be cops? Yeah, of course there are. Of course, but it's not necessarily what the cell phone says.
Yeah. Yeah. It's divisive, man. It's political. I mean, I think we agree on that everything is so politicized, and if we can be divided, the people in power get to stay in power, and
Absolutely.
we can bicker about.
Tulsi Gabbard, you know who Tulsi Gabbard is? Should have been the
I love
president.
Tulsi Gabbard. I would have voted for her.
She may have been the one person, and I disagree with her on a lot of things, but I probably would have voted for her, because at least she can communicate,
Yeah.
and articulate what she believes. But her own party didn't like that.
Yeah.
Even though she ticked all the boxes, minority, woman, like
Yeah.
military. There's all these sort of like social boxes that would be really advantageous for that side, right?
Yeah.
Like, and they're like, whoa, you think too much for yourself here,
Yeah.
lady. But she was just on Jocko's podcast and talking about this very thing from being an insider's perspective, saying like, we would basically be told from our party leaders, she's like, you could have the same exact bill put in front of you. You don't support this one because it's got a guy with an R after his name up here, and you do support this one because it says a D afterwards. And it's just like, this is happening where, you know, and people just buy into it hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
You know, at least the mainstream media perception of that is that people are buying hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that more and more people are feel like they need to pick sides.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy. It's crazy to watch. And
Yeah.
It's crazy to be on the receiving end of that too, because most people peg me as X. You know, even though I'm like, I'm not X.
Yeah.
I just simply said something. Like,
Yeah.
I'm asking a question, or I'm positing something that I see as like my thoughts on this. Oh, then you're this.
Yeah.
No, I'm not that. Everybody needs to be categorized.
Yeah.
And so it's so funny. Like, I've posted things like, I didn't vote for Trump, but people be like, typical Trumper or whatever. And I'm like, what do you,
You're like,
you didn't even
wait a
know me.
minute.
Like,
Yeah.
I didn't even say anything about him in my post or whatever. Like, why? It's like, but people gotta like put you in that category.
Yeah.
Immediately, where it's like, So I always respect, like Tulsi's somebody that I've messaged back and forth, and I've always respected the fact that we're probably definitely differ on a lot of issues, but at least you can communicate.
Yeah.
You know, respectfully. It's not like just this all or nothing.
Yeah.
And I think I probably would agree. I think I would have probably 4 or 5 times the followers that I have if I would have given into that game. There's a few former cops out there that became social media influencers by going the political route.
Yeah.
And jumping on the Trump train as a means to get views.
Yeah.
And I could have done that.
Yeah.
But it's just not my thing. I don't mind calling out any politician
Yeah.
who does something stupid or says something stupid or whatever, or I agree with this about them or I disagree with them about it.
Well, it's so harmful because it doesn't help. Like, none of that helps the discussion. So I know a guy who was on the radio, and one time I was like, what are you talking about? Like, why would you say that? And he said, yeah, it gets people fired up, and they come back tomorrow to listen. Like, but what is that adding to the discourse to, like, jump on the Trump train or jump on this political train or, like, to jump to those things? Like, you're really just adding to the noise rather than making the difference that it seems like you set out to make.
Right. Unless your objective is to have a lot of followers and sell ad blocks.
Yeah. Well, good for you, but then I don't want to follow you because I think you're kind of an asshole.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Awesome, man. Well, thanks for doing this. This was fun.
Thanks for having me. I got a free Americano.
Dude, you're gonna get
I'm gonna get
an
to go one to
Ethiopian,
go.
right?
No. I'm gonna stick with Americano.
We were just bitching about how you didn't.
I just feel like it should have been offered.
I agree.
I would have said no. It's just nice to be asked. It's a good point.
All right, man. Well, thanks.
Thank you.
This was fun.
Cheers.
I'll do yours next time.